Namaste and welcome to Poetry Lab with Dr. Pariksith Singh. We are going ahead, carrying on with our discussion and reading and analysis of this collection of poems, Satya, Poems to My Father. And the last poem we looked at was actually unpeeling an onion, or as Dr. Singh cleverly put it, Inion, because the onion is inside. it's in it's in the interior landscape of both mourning and I would say valediction. But let's go to the next poem, Bindu, because if you remember last time, Dr. Singh said that after that sort of storm of emotions and sensations and memories, then something is left, because he said otherwise it's a blank. Memory is wiped clean in that process of letting go, of rebirth, if you will, of catharsis, but some subtle essence remains. And what better metaphor for an essence of that kind, very concentrated, than Bindu? So before you read the poem, Dr. Singh, can you tell us about the Bindu going back to the Vedas? I think it's a very profound idea, the Bindu, which also from the Vedic times, that drop of soma for which we crave, and later to the Sri Chakra, the Bindu in the heart of the Sri Chakra, which represents both involution and evolution. So it's a very powerful idea in the Indic world. So perhaps you can tell us a little bit about the Bindu itself before we read the poem.
Yeah, the Bindu is one of my favorite images in the mind. And of course, it's a very famous image in our Indic literature. The Bindu is the point, and a point doesn't have any separate existence in space. It does not take any space in space. That's the definition of a point. But a Bindu can also mean a drop. And in that sense, the word that it comes from, I think, although I could be wrong, is Indu. Indu means soma, or that refined, distilled drop of bliss, of your whole being brought to that perfect point of ecstasy, of joy. And it's a very sacred word. Also, another word used for is soma rasa, but Indu has a separate meaning, and Indu also means the moon. And it has its own, in yogic and tantric literature, it has its own process where a center, moon has its own separate center from it. It drips down through the palate on the tongue. And this is the bliss of your own self-purification, of your own intense ascesis, tapasya, as what we call in Sanskrit, and self refinement to a point where you become yourself. Your being is that point which is ready to disappear. You're at that cusp of disappearance between being and non-being. Also, there's another term for it: the snake swallowing its tail until it becomes a dot. And that's a very beautiful image given in our literature. So that's how Indu somewhere came into my head. But also it represents perhaps a break away from all the agni, the fire of losing the father, the beloved, the cover that was gone suddenly, and now through that intense tapasya of purification, a joyous drop remains, a gratitude, point of gratitude that fulfills everything. And there's another story about Indu, but I don't want to go into that, because Bindu is also madhu, it is honey, and it is also wine. It also intoxicates you and takes you into that bliss where you are full of light. Goda idre vato madaha. They say, tell to Indra. The Rishi tells Indra, you come and I'll have this soma, and when you are intoxicated, you will give us light. So Goda idre vato madaha. That's a very famous line. And then the other line is Indavo vamushantihi. This soma desires you, hey Indra. So Vayava indrascha upaprayo obhiragatam indavo vamushantihi. This soma desires you. And what a beautiful, you see the use of inda and indra. Indra within wants Indra, the highest intelligence, to come down. So this has a lot of loaded meanings in this Indic mind.
Oh, totally, totally. The focal point, the dot, as you said, uh, even in Buddhism, the Bindu,
Yes,
and if you go to India, the ladies wear still a bindi or a bindu,
yes,
and at one time even men used to wear it. They had
yes,
this point to suggest the third eye. So let's now, go to the poem itself, page 43, for those who are following along with us in the
yes.
book.
Bindu, a single drop of gold drowns the world. A point so minuscule it escapes the sight, intractable, resolute. And yet, from afar, the concentration of space in a point so solitary, all dimensions end in one last breath. It stands behind my heartbeats as their veins seeking the tip that grows unbearable with complete disappearance.
So it's interesting that disappearance, as it were, from the departure from the mortal coil. I mean, even in science, people have reflected on this or puzzled over it. What is that exact point, between life and death, which is that moment? So tip, that tip where you tip over, as it were. And
The tipping
yes,
point.
tipping point or the still point, and it's so minuscule that you can't see it. But even in the Big Bang idea of the universe, everything began from a point, which was not in space and time. It was beyond space and time. So, all creation begins with that point, with that tiny, very tiny particle, sometimes too tiny to certainly to be seen, and also so solitary, and all the dimensions are, contained in that one little point, as it were. And even the first, that gamete that is formed, that from the egg and the sperm, is also very tiny. It's microscopic, and then imagine the cell division that takes place. And we all go around thinking, you know, we are, of course, trillions of cells now, but it all began with one cell. So, and it's unbearable. That point, in a way, it's unbearable. Death is unbearable. Life is unbearable. And yet we carry on.
Yeah,
So
it
let's
is.
let's 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 get to another poem.
Yes, sir.
In fact, I want us to do two more in this episode. The
Okay.
next one, The Final Turn, page 44.
44. Okay. The final turn. And this really happened. So this is a it was a painful moment, but hopefully the reader can appreciate it. The final turn. Now you are grown fit for me to touch your feet. Nothing could be more embarrassing for an Indian son. I reacted instantly. No, Papa, it will always be me to touch your feet. What was it that you heard in my discussion on the Gita during the podcast that I do not? Something went deep through your mind for you to bestow this honor upon your son. Even now, it lingers horizonless as the unanswered question. Was this realization the decisive turn for you to let go of your bonds, even your son?
Yeah, I just want to flip it a little bit, because both for a guru as well as for a father, even if they don't express it, the highest moment of pride, of satisfaction is when the disciple of the son exceeds themselves. There
Yes.
cannot be a prouder moment, even for a dad, even if they don't say it. So if the son, you know, as they say, the worthy son of a worthy father, but if the father recognizes that the son has exceeded him, and I'm not talking about in a material sense alone, but in this case, in this poem, very clearly, it is that spiritual, I would say, crossing of a threshold, which is so significant here. And I feel the same. We've known each other for a very long time. And now I see not only the Gita, but the Veda spouting out of you, sprouting out of you. And I feel very, very proud and delighted, and certainly ready to touch your feet, because this is a knowledge society. We don't have that conventional kind of ego at all. We're not bound by those conventions and traditions when we stand on that threshold of self-confrontation. So it's a wonderful poem of coming of age, but also the graciousness of the father to acknowledge it. You see,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
it's one of the narrative poems, and it is certainly a decisive turn. And from that point, the Bindu, which we talked about, that tipping point, which we also mentioned last time, and it's wonderful that the Gita occasioned it. See, the Gita is an eternal dialogue, right? Both between God and man, but also quintessentially between teacher and student. So every time two people with that spirit of learning and humility get together, it becomes a Gita, because the word Gita
Yes.
actually means song. So when we say Bhagavad Gita, it means song celestial, because
Yes.
Bhagavan himself, Krishna himself, is actually, as it were, singing the song or offering the teaching. But there are many Gitas. There's Uddhava Gita, there is the Ashtavakra Gita, and there is the Ribhu Gita. So
Yes.
the Gita is a format, and I would submit that, Satya, our poetry lab, has also become a kind of Gita. We are enjoying and celebrating. It's a somber collection of poems, but we're celebrating Paravak and the flow of Paravak in this exchange, and of course the great goddess Saraswati, who makes it possible, isn't it? Who inspires us. So let's look at the next one, the lost piece of sky for this episode, please. Page
Which page is
45.
that?
Page 45.
45.
And viewers, please buy this book. It should be available. I say should be because on Amazon in India, we're still working out how to make it widely available. But otherwise, write to us and, send us a post, send us a note. We'll see if we can ship it to you. Yeah, thank you.
The Lost Piece of Sky. Is that the one?
Yes, sir.
From a corner of my eye, I glimpsed a glimmering piece of sky. It lay next to your picture in a lost corner of the lanai. But as I moved closer and gazed in its void, it blurred, and as I reached for it, disappeared. I can yet see in it the blue and gold and gray, and its horizonless limits as I step back and glimpse, from a corner of my eye, the glimmering piece of sky.
So, viewers, please note the couplets: I, sky, lanai. It doesn't go all through. We did talk earlier about the ghazal and the
Yes.
different forms, but it's the forms. The poet dips in and out of forms. Akriti, Sanskriti. You also deconstruct a form, but I want us all to be aware of the sound. How the sounds are carrying the meaning. So please, this lost, you know, piece of sky. I think Khoya Khoya Chand, Khoya
Come
Asaman,
on.
you know. So it's a wonderful composition, a poem, which was a song, very famous song in the Hindi film industry. But that lost piece of sky reminded me of that.
Yet the sky is just an image, which we actually, again, it's a Vedic image. Akasha,
Akash.
Vyom keeps coming back, which is something and yet nothing. That complete vibrant stillness, as I think Sri Aurobindo described it, a vibrant stillness across the retreating horizons I glimpsed. Do you remember that line? What a powerful line it was.
Yes.
A place where nothing moves, something beautiful lines, 4 lines were there. And it describes another space. And
Yeah.
space, of course, in our, yeah,
Horizonless limits. You have precisely that kind of image.
yes.
Right here in this poem, the horizonless limits. Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, and we kind of, for a moment, we think we have glimpsed it, and then it's gone. But the Vyoma, Parama Vyoma, is such an important space in our tradition, in the Veda itself, where you find the mantra, the word that creates, the sound that creates the universe. So yeah, it's an aspiration for for all us poets to touch that and bring something from there.
Yes, the Chidakash, which is the source of all creation, in fact. The Buddhists call it Shunya, but it's a
Yes.
Shunya which is so pregnant with potential, with meaning, with possibilities. So, viewers, you saw a set of 3 poems, a tercet, if you will, where you had the Bindu, you had the turning point, the final I think the poem itself was called The Final Turn, and now the lost piece of sky, the void, where you, as you said, you go into the Paramavyoma, and it's that horizonless horizon, you might call it, Kshatij. It's a lovely
Kshitij.
word in our Indian
Yes.
languages. But the horizon beckons you, you keep proceeding towards it, but it recedes. So
Yes.
human longing is also like that. But we always think that beyond the horizon lies some reality, some truth, some higher consciousness that if only we could touch, our own lives would be elevated and uplifted and I would say beautified, if there's any such word.
Yes.
But any concluding thoughts on this set of 3 poems, Dr.
No,
Singh?
I'm learning more about myself talking to you. Because you have brought out things that I did not realize, the point, the turn. Because varta is a very important concept in Sanskrit. Varta is to turn, but also to be. The moment of the present is called vartamana. It's a moment of turning. So the turn, and see how these images come together subconsciously and connect somewhere, perhaps in my subconscious, and then perhaps in the subconscious of the reader or listener. It's
Yes, absolutely. The turn of the phrase avartaman bhavati, we have that kind of recurrent refrain when we chant also, and yet the journey continues, as you will see. So please join us in the next episode where we will talk about the metamorphosis, the transformation, and perhaps the butterfly images will come back. And so please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And poetry lovers, you're welcome to join the Poetry Lab with us. Thank you, Dr. Singh, and see you soon.